Hi everyone. Morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Nice to be the first person on stage. So for a long while, I think AI has been a hammer in search of a nail, right? It's good to get to a point where we're discussing specific use cases in a particular industry, right? So I lead product marketing at Vymo. My name is Roshan. Vymo is an AI-enabled personal assistant for sales, right? What we essentially try to do is help salespeople figure out what a good sale looks like and how they can do more, right? Because that is a fundamental question. Can your sales team do more, right? Irrespective of industry, irrespective of what product or service you're selling, that's a very fundamental question. And any sales managers in the house? No? No salespeople at all? Okay, there's one person. You know what the answer is like, right? So the answer is an emphatic yes. Of course, you believe your sales team can do more. You know, if only your sales team was a little more disciplined, if only they spend time on the right opportunities, so on and so forth, yes, your sales team can do more. Any sales reps in the house? Or anyone with sales experience? No? Okay, one person there. And you know what the answer is as well, that it's an emphatic no, right? Because salespeople usually believe that quotas are designed to be just out of reach, and you know, it's a miracle that if you meet your quotas at the end of the quarter, right? So this is the reason why Vymo exists. Vymo exists to kind of bridge this distance, right? So what we try to figure out is what the thumbprint of a sale looks like. So what prospects should you be prioritizing? What opportunities should you be working on, right? And what should you be doing essentially to move the sales stage forward? So what we try to figure out is what are those good behaviors that can move the sales stage forward, right? And it translates to insights at every level of the organization. For a sales rep, it's about what should I do today to kind of achieve my targets? Like what prospects should I prioritize, right? For a sales manager, it's about visibility into what his teams are doing on the ground and how he or she can help those teams proactively to achieve more. And for a sales leader, it's about planning and resourcing, right? It's about understanding what works at a very broad level and taking those strategic decisions to move things forward, right? Let's see what this looks like. So we generally operate as an intelligence layer over CRMs, and we push next best actions, right? Next best actions can work either on business logic or on data science. Basically, what we try to figure out is like what your best reps are doing, and can we kind of push that downstream to the rest of the people, right? Maybe your best reps are kind of reaching out to new leads more than the older leads, right? Or maybe your best reps are reaching out to any lead assigned within a period of 4 hours. Right? So we can push these behaviors to every lead and every rep. As I mentioned, for supervisors and managers, it could be about interventions, right? You know that your sales guy is excellent at setting up meetings, but for some reason he doesn't close them, right? So if you feel like at the third meeting that you have to intervene, an alert is sent out urging the person to kind of intervene and see what's happening. Right? So this can be both diagnostic and it can be prescriptive, right? And at a leadership level, is to understand what your people are really good at. We all know that sales is a very specialized skill. Not everybody is a full stack salesperson as such. Not everybody is good at everything. So are your salespeople good at prospecting, or are your salespeople good at closing? Right? Should you hire more hunters or should you hire more farmers? Right? So on and so forth. So this kind of translates into, again, planning, resourcing, and we do a bunch of productivity reports as well in terms of what a salesperson is actually doing on the ground and how it's translating into effective outcomes, right? So with this background, let me take you through a small case study of a pilot that we did with India's largest private banking group, right? So this is a typical wealth banking scenario where the target is high net worth individuals, right? The very relationship based, it's very high touch, and you have a bunch of relationship managers and senior relationship managers trying to get wallet share from these people, right? So these people will be probably 1 crore plus, spend for a year or so, right? And you can imagine what the challenges can be like. Now, if I'm a guy who's spending 1,000 rupees, my expectations are different. If I'm a guy who's spending 1 crore rupees, my expectations are entirely different, right? A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work for me. I need something for my scenario, right? I need something entirely customized. Now, doing this at scale is a very, very difficult thing, right? Imagine if you have to do this to, maybe like 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, right? Doing this at scale is a really, really big challenge. It also leads to a tremendous amount of knowledge and expertise that has to be that has to surface at the right time, right? Does Mr. Chatterjee like being called on Thursday or Friday, right? Or does, Mrs. Verma like to meet people, or, she's more comfortable on calls and emails, so on and so forth. There's a lot of all this tribal data that has to be captured, right? So the thing is that to capture this data, process it, and push intelligence across the sales organization is a tremendous challenge. So a lot of the sales is very anecdotal, right? Like your sales person knows that if he has, at the end of the month, if he has to increase his quota, if he has to increase his chance of meeting a quota, he has to call some X, Y, or Z person, right? Because traditionally, he has a good relationship with them and he can kind of make that sale happen, right? What we built was basically a model to correlate your sales efforts and outcomes, right? So based on a bunch of parameters, like your hierarchy, your call frequency, your calendar, what your business objectives are, so on and so forth, we push suggestions, right? These suggestions are in the form of activities. So they could be like nudges to call people and set up meetings, so on and so forth. And then we recognize what has happened after this, right? So if I suggested a meeting to you, did that meeting actually happen? First of all, did you accept that meeting? Or did you reject that, right? And why did you reject that? So all of this data kind of flows back and forth, and it gets intelligent to basically figure out what a good sale is like and what a sale can be like, right? So this is how your suggestions look like. I'm not sure if you can see this. So here, for example, it's detected that there's a large enough gap in your calendar, right? So it says that there's a gap in your calendar between, say, 1:45 to around 2:45 or something of that sort. Why don't you call this person? Why don't you call Akash Agarwal and check, if he's available to catch up, right? And again, you can kind of accept these suggestions or reject them based on, your individual preference. And that's how it worked. Now, the results from the pilot were pretty staggering, right? So it was really great. Usually, there is a lot of talk about AI replacing humans and destroying lives, so on and so forth. But what we've actually proven is AI actually empowers humans, right? Over a third of the time, people relied on these suggestions. Now, that's a big thing, right? For salespeople especially. Again, there are not a lot of salespeople in the house, but salespeople are very stubborn. They're very superstitious, right? You have a working routine, and if it works, you stick to it for about 20 years, right? For them to kind of change and accept these suggestions were really big, right? About 80% or more of the calls that originated from the app was from suggestions, right? About 80% of the calls were from suggestions. And not just that, a fifth of these activities were completed. So if, for example, as you saw, if a meeting was suggested, the person actually met that person more than a fifth of the time, right? So they actually followed through on those suggestions. And the daily user adoption was greater than 90%, which is again phenomenal because conventional CRMs are somewhere between 25 to 30%, right? And these are the top CRMs in the world as well. So that's about all I had time for today to present. So we are Vymo. We're a personal assistant for sales. We have about 50 plus enterprise deployments. We have 75,000 salespeople across the world using us in some very big, banks and insurance companies as well. And we prove revenue impact of 3 to 10% within a couple of quarters itself, right? And of course, we've been recognized at a bunch of these places. We're a Gartner Cool vendor, and we won the CB Insights fintech track as well. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them now. Wow, on the dot.